And it records the whole time, right?
Oh, you bet.
Hell yeah. Love it.
What is up, everybody? Tuesday, September 26th, 6 p.m. on the dot, not a minute late. And we are joined here, the Sons of Saturday, and the Loyal Sons are going to preview the game between Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech. It is 2 1-3 football teams. It is on national television. It is on at night. ACC Network is in town for it. Virginia Tech is doing a whiteout for the game. So if you are a Virginia Tech fan, please show up and wear white. Because there's no point of doing a white effect if we have half participation. So without further ado, I am Billy Ray Mitchell. I am joined with Pat Finn from Sons of Saturday, and we're going to pass it over to the Loyal Sons for some introductions. So have at it, fellas.
Well, I guess I'll go first because I'm the only one that's not muted right now. Hi, I'm David from the Loyal Sons Show. That's at Loyal Sons on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you do social media or get podcasts. Should I just give our full intro as if, should we just take turns basically doing the various introductions and segments of our show since we're both going to post this under our own umbrellas?
Sure.
Brought to you by Section 5.
Yeah, just give us a little background, your affiliation with Pittsburgh, and yeah, that'd be great.
I'm gonna kick it over to Dylan because Dylan is really the father of this whole thing.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Thanks for having us. For the Virginia Tech fans, basically, this was a burner Twitter account that I made back in 2019. I just wanted to tweet about how upset I was about the Pitt basketball program at the time. Was starting to come around to it, thus the original handle name of Cable Faithful. We eventually transitioned to the Loyal Sons because the Cable Faithful tag wasn't doing so well for a couple years when Jeff Capel was winning about 10 games a season. So we transitioned to that. We got a decent following on Twitter, and then me, Squid, and David, basically all we ever did when we were together was talk about Pitt football, Pitt hoops, and we said let's just start recording and see if anyone will listen. We're hoping maybe our 20 buddies we're in a GM with would listen to it, and we've actually done decently well for ourselves for 3 asshole buddies with a podcast. Can we swear on this?
You can.
Okay,
you can let it fly.
3 asshole buddies with a Twitter and a podcast.
Unfortunately, it's looking like we might have to go back to Cable Faithful. The script is flipped. Football team 1-3, basketball team looking good. So might come full circle. I'm Squid, by the way, the third Loyal Son.
And that actually leads perfectly into one of our haikus, Patrick. So why don't you, for you Pittsburgh listeners, Hokie haiku, it does rhyme. You could do Pittsburgh poetry as well. You don't have to hold yourself accountable to the syllables. Might be a little bit easier, but we'll kick it off with some haikus here.
That was fantastic. Pittsburgh poetry.
We love alliteration, yeah.
Well, Bill, since this is going on the Loyal Sons feed too, we should do a quick intro.
Yeah, no, Billy Ray Mitchell played football at Virginia Tech from 2014 to 2018. Season ticket holder, love Virginia Tech football, basketball, baseball, all sports. And we do a podcast called Sons of Saturday. Check us out at sonsofsaturday.com. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. Can't imagine many Pittsburgh people will be adopting it. But if you want to, you're more than willing to. And for you Pittsburgh listeners, Salim Brightwell, who joined the show a couple weeks ago, we were teammates in high school, 2-time state champions in the state of New Jersey. I'm not sure if Salim won 3, but yeah, good friend of mine. And I got a lot of admiration for Pitt. I have to say it. One of my favorite words to describe programs or describe people is grit. And I think Pittsburgh, maybe not as much this year as previous years, is one of the grittier cities in the United States, and it is one of the grittier programs around. So that is a hat tip to you guys and to Pittsburgh.
I disagree a little bit that we aren't gritty this year because I think gritty is defined by enduring something that sucks. Like what job comes to mind when you say oh, that guy's gritty. He has a gritty job.
Construction.
Yeah, sucks. And you're gritty because you do it and you do it without complaining. and it sucks.
Gritty
While we
fan
do-
base. Gritty fan base this year.
Yeah. So while we are complaining like a lot, I'd still say it's pretty gritty that we're enduring this Pitt offensive product.
I would say the same. Now, we did have to introduce the grit swear jar for Billy Ray in our Hot Wings and Hotter Takes episode earlier this year. So, Billy, drop a couple dollars in there.
Yep.
Guys, I'm Pat. Great to be on with you here. When we saw the Loyal Sons and Sons of Saturday, we are not exclusive to daughters as well. We have had our fair share of Hokie daughters on the podcast over the past few years. But I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Both my folks went to Virginia Tech. I graduated in 2017 and also have season tickets up there with BRM. So fired up. And with that, let's jump into the Hokie haiku and Pittsburgh Panther poetry. We got a submission from Pete McGee. Fourth most important team in city of Pittsburgh can't fill stadium. Wow. Throwing some jabs. All right, this next one, I'm going to let you guys take this one. Squid, if you want to read this next one, are you looking at the doc right now?
No.
Okay. Dylan,
I am.
Preparation.
Dylan or Dave, do you guys want to take it?
I got it. Virginia Tech is maybe the only team worse than Pitt is right now.
That's Nate Schurman. Sounds like a Loyal Sons listener. And then this last one, I actually wrote this one about an hour ago. ACC B-ball schedule's coming out tonight. It is almost time. I think we could all get behind that Hokie haiku. Got to check it out at 7 p.m. on the ACC network. They're doing the schedule release for both men's and women's. Tune in. We'll see what the schedule release looks like this year. As I know, with football, it is always a 4.5-hour production, and it only needs to be about 10 minutes.
Now, really quickly, Pat, before all the keyboard warriors are going to get upset that we have mailed it in on football, that is absolutely not true. We'll be at every single home game. We are going to Tallahassee. We are going to Charlottesville. But we would be lying if we didn't say that it was rather exciting to see some basketball practice being had yesterday. So I did just want to address that for everybody who's going to have some snarky comments about that. It's time to dive into some history. I want to say this. When Virginia Tech was kind of crafting their, who are the ideal people that we should play every single year, obviously the first couple that come to your mind are the Miamis of the world or the UVAs of the world. And Pittsburgh was on that list for me. They were on there with North Carolina. I think we've had really, really fun, intriguing matchups every single time we've played. They've had stakes for the most part for somebody. And it's just been a fun matchup every single year. It has been interesting, though. It seems like there is sprinkled in just an absolute take you to the back of the shed and beat you to death. Typically, to be fair, that comes from the run game of Pittsburgh. So, Pat, why don't you go ahead and hit on some of the high notes for Virginia Tech, and we can talk about the other side of the coin as well.
Yeah, we'll go back and forth here a little bit with some Hokie history and some Pitt Panther pastimes. So this is the first matchup where Tech and Pittsburgh are playing each other in this new ACC format without the Coastal. However, it does not get more old school Big East than Virginia Tech and Pitt. And obviously, we've played each other 22 times in the past, going back to 1993. And when Tech took the hiatus from the Big East, there was about a decade of no Virginia Tech and no Pitt football. But we are de facto rivals, and Pitt is one of the three built-in games every single year. We love this matchup. I will say, ever since you guys changed your uniform scheme to the, more of the mustard, gold, yellow, whatever you want to call it, and the lighter shade of blue, as you guys can see on Squid's shirt, it looks like. You guys look a lot better, and you've been playing a lot better football as well, so we can appreciate that. As a school that needs a rebrand ourselves, considering our pants and our uniforms look more of a magenta shade then maroon. So we need to figure that one out with Nike. But
How dare they? Wow.
awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Well, if the team's not winning, everyone complains about everything else, which, is natural. So I am going to, rabble on about the magenta pants. 11-11, dating back to 1993. This is the 23rd game. So this is the rubber match here. Virginia Tech is 7-3 against Pittsburgh at home. Those 3 losses to Pitt were 2002, 2015, and 2021. Pittsburgh has won the last 3 games. Tech has not won since the 2019 28-0 shutout in the rain, which was Bud Foster's last game in Lane Stadium.
This has to be said. I did the inconvenient truths on the last podcast, and here is a very inconvenient truth. That was like the last meaningful football game that Virginia Tech has played in after the month of September was that football game. Pat, you remember I wasn't sitting in section 5 yet. Pat didn't leave the stadium. Pat was sitting in the stadium, soaking in the rain. Everybody's covered, pruny, and it was just an awesome performance. But since then, in 2019, Tech was 7-3. They win that game. They have a chance to clinch the Coastal the next week. They did not. Another inconvenient truth is that stop labeling that 2019 loss versus Virginia as a bad loss. That was a really good Virginia team. But the last time Tech would enter November with a winning record, except for the Mickey Mouse 2020 season where they were 4-2 and then proceeded to lose to Liberty and the next 3 games after that. So this is, that is the last time, in my estimation, that Virginia Tech has played meaningful football before the, after the leaves have fallen off of the tree.
You know who did leave the game early that day? Dylan and I, about halfway through the third quarter. I think the reason Virginia Tech won that game was because we were there. There was a stretch. It was probably like 6 games straight where our friend group went on a road trip to a Pitt game and Pitt lost. Like, we had not seen a Pitt road victory in like 4 years. Eventually we got off the schneid there. We did win some road games since, but that was one of the more brutal trips because we were eager to see Blacksburg, eager to see what we thought was a pretty good Pitt team play. And it rained and rained and rained. And we punted and we punted and we punted. It was bad.
Yeah, and we made it out of the stadium, and me and Squid are like trying to call a lift, and I think we hit like literally we just hit the cutoff for when they were no longer allowing ride shares into the parking lot so they could set people up to leave. So we missed that, and when we finally decided we had to walk like a mile to civilization, we just heard over the loudspeaker outside, number 12 has been ejected for targeting. And that echoes in my brain forever now when I think of seeing games in Blacksburg.
Well, I have a story about that game. As I was at Sharky's after the game, and that whole game, I was like, "Yo, Paris Ford is an absolute stud." I mean, this guy is hitting guys. He was all over the field that day. And my buddy Matt Rivera actually went so far to say that Paris Ford is going to be a first-round draft pick. I bet him on that day. I won $100. That was a dumb thing to say. He's an undersized.
Where was he drafted?
He was not drafted at all.
And Billy, I gotta say, that's not the first time you've made a bet with your buddy about someone getting drafted and then not living up to the hype. Remember Sean Wade? You thought was going to be a first rounder.
That is true. I did think that. And then, so I'm at Sharky's and I was in the middle of saying the sentence. I said, "Man, Paris Ford is," and somebody who turned out to be his mother or aunt or somebody says, "Paris Ford is what? Paris Ford is what?" And I said, "Paris Ford is a stud." And that's exactly what I was going to say. And she says, "You're right. You're right." I was like, "Okay." We still won 27-0. So, but yeah, that's my Paris Ford story.
We have a lot of Paris Ford stories, but we're gonna save you the next 30 minutes and keep on cruising right through. Very, very checkered legacy at the University of Pittsburgh.
Good ball player. Good ball player.
Certainly. Yeah, that was an exciting game. Bud Foster's last game. Norrell Pollard had the scoop and score touchdown. We only allowed 3 first downs the entire game, or I think 3 third down conversions it was. looking at the old box score. And then prior to the game, I think it was a defensive back or a wide receiver from Pittsburgh was trying to tear up the Virginia Tech Hokies logo in the end zone. I remember that going out on Twitter from David Cunningham. Let's see. What else do we got here? 2017, the goal line stand. Reggie Floyd had the rundown, and after 4 plays and the game's over 20-14, Virginia Tech wins. The team rushes onto the field, and Billy Ray Mitchell is seen as the cheetah in khakis sprinting to the other sideline. Pure elation. 2016, I was at this game Thursday night. It was my senior year, and after looking at these numbers that Virginia Tech put up, it really just did not seem like it was real. A 39-36 victory. We had 556 total yards. Gerard Evans was 24 of 40 with 406 yards. Bucky, Isaiah, and Cam Phillips all had over 100 yards receiving. Joey Sly set a record for points by a kicker in a game with 6 field goals and 3 extra points. This just doesn't seem real, to be honest with you, and I kind of want to rewatch this game considering the offensive juggernaut we were that night. This was the pass the salt Pat Narduzzi game.
Yeah, because you kept pushing off.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think this was the prime example. If you ask Pitt fans back when everyone was in the camp of Narduzzi's defense will not work in the ACC, this was the number one game they would point to, because I think there were probably a dozen different times at that game where me and Squid probably turned to each other and said, all right, we just need to stop on this 3rd down and this is ours. And then Bucky or Isaiah, Cam, take your pick. They would catch it back shoulder over Dane Jackson, Vontae Mack, like pretty good corners, guys who play in the NFL now. But yeah, that was brutal.
And then I'll talk about 2 more and then turn it over to you guys for your fun. You can take some jabs here. 2013, this really what I remember from this game. I believe Tom Savage was the quarterback at Pittsburgh, but this was the Kyshon Jarrett massive hit on was it Devin Streeter down the sideline, just completely obliterated him in a 19-9 win in Lane Stadium. And then 2000, Michael Vick sprains his ankle in Lane Stadium. We're undefeated at this point. I think it's late October, early November, and we narrowly escape behind. Lee Suggs has like 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dave Meyer has a clutch drive at the end of the game, and Carter Worley kicks a field goal to win 37-34. If Michael Vick does not sprain his ankle against Pittsburgh in 2000, Virginia Tech probably goes to the national championship again. And who knows where we would be right now. And then there were 3 games in a row, 2001, 2002, and 2003, where Pittsburgh just dominated Virginia Tech. And really spoiled us, or didn't spoil us, but actually played spoiler in early November to end our run in the Big East. So the transition from Virginia Tech being in the Big East to the ACC, Pittsburgh really was a stain on our program with 3 straight wins. But Pitt guys, let's hear it from your side.
Yeah, do we each want to take one? I think David probably wants to start with that game you're referencing there in 2003.
Yes. So for starters, I feel like we should disclose to our audience that you guys are actually our bosses. So we have been threatened under penalty of losing advertising revenue to not run up the score on you too bad. So please keep that in mind. No, the one I want to talk about, very personal to me, 2003. It was the first college or NFL game I ever attended. I was but an 8-year-old boy, and I went with my dad and my older brother. That was the game where number 25 Pitt beat number 5 Virginia Tech with a last-minute touchdown from recurring guest Lusaka Polite. Great Pitt man, great football man, great man. I think that was the last time. That game was the last time Virginia Tech was, really relevant on the grand stage of college football. So, yeah, just again for reference, I was 8 and now I'm 28.
I don't know about that. That's probably irrelevant in the grand scheme of college football. I mean, we're not now, but I mean, come on.
Sorry,
At least give us
I got the
some
react. I got the reaction I wanted.
Okay,
reaction I wanted. No, but that was a great one. Really one of the best Pitt wins of the last 20 years, and one of my earliest memories of being like, wow, this football thing is really cool. I'm going to let it dictate my happiness for the rest of my life.
And then we have a bit of a lull here. So we're going to jump from 2003 to 2018. I know there's some other wins there, but I think this is more of when we really came into our own, as Pitt's going to dominate every Saturday we spend in the fall for the rest of our lives. The 2018 game back at Heinz Field. I was actually was able to pull up an article I read after that game, like a week after. This was like one of the most dominating performances by one Power 5 team over another, like in the last decade. So Quadri Olison and Darren Hall combined for 421 yards on the ground. Quadri Olison made a permanent Caleb Farley-shaped indent into Heinz Field when he stiff-armed him into the turf on his 97-yard touchdown run. And Pitt averaged 13.9 yards per play on offense that game, which was the most in the FBS in a 13-year span.
Pat, you were at that game, weren't you?
That was horrendous. 2018 was just like, if you look at 2018, you're just like, how was our defense this bad? Like, our defense was horrendous in 2018. And you look at the stat line from this game, Ryan Willis had a pretty solid stat line. 22 of 34, 231 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he ran for another 65 yards. And you're like, what went wrong? Eric Takuma, 2 touchdown catches. And then you realize, oh my gosh, our rushing defense in 2018 was absolutely abhorrent. And, 2018 and 2022, essentially you had Ollison, and then you have a band of Canada. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that. This was one of the only, I think this was the first time I ever left a game early, actually. Like left before halftime, freezing cold, and we had a massive group, and we just sent it to Tequila Cowboy and just spent like the next few hours there and had an awesome time. But just a historic evening, pretty awful.
Small world. We were probably at Tequila Cowboy too shortly after the game, so might have brushed shoulders, might have thrown some jabs after a big win, because that was a big game for Pitt. It was early in the year or middle of the year. Big for the coastal race. Mm-hmm. And we'll go on to the next one. Another big rushing game. For some reason, Pitt can run the ball down Virginia Tech's throat at will lately. Dude. And last year, pretty one-dimensional team. Keaton Slovis wasn't looking like the sharpest quarterback in the Power 5. And it was kind of a sloppy game early on. Pitt was down against a Virginia Tech team that we thought we were a lot better than. And then we just kept giving the ball to Izzy, and he kept picking up 10 yards and scoring touchdowns anytime he got the ball.
A couple of things on both of those games. I'll start with 2021. That was the most, understandably so, but it was the most toxic and dejected I have seen our fan base at a football game. That was the first game that we heard Fire Fuente in the stands. Screaming obscenities, extremely upset. You knew the end was right there. And you just came in and you kicked our ass, and you did it again in 2022.
I have a quick comment about 2021.
Yeah.
2021 was the first year that we have started selling alcohol in Lane Stadium. So that was kind of like the game where it was like, this game is so over, but I am with all my friends, and there's a bar right on the other side of the Section 5 portal. And we just kind of kept going back and forth and, hung out and drank our Fighting Hokies lager, which now, guys, we'll talk about, but you can buy PBR in Lane Stadium. Fun fact. That was kind of like, hey, we can still have fun even though we're getting crushed.
And then 2022 is misremembered, I think, because if you look at the final score, it's 29-45, and basically Barry Sanders, Tony Dorsett, Ricky Williams, and Mark Ingram all had a kid, and it was Israel Abanikanda that day. But people forget, like, that entire game was pretty close. The third quarter was a disaster, but in typical Tech fashion, these last 2 years, I'm looking at the scoring summary. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, Virginia Tech blocks a punt, ends up being a touchdown, and Tech's down 29-31 at the beginning of that fourth quarter. And again, that was a not good Virginia Tech football team, but it's kind of misremembered. I think it was actually I don't want to say it was one of the better games that we played, but it's misremembered as being a blowout when it, in my opinion, was not. It was just an unbelievable performance by Israel Abanikanda.
Yeah, I agree with that. We were sitting in our usual season ticket section, and there's a notorious row of older gentlemen in the 2 rows behind us that just complain about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few of them the whole game. It's like, why are we running the ball so much? It's stupid. It's like 3rd and 6, and we're trying to run the ball, like nonstop complaining about running the ball. And then fast forward 2 hours, we have 320 rushing yards and 6 on the ground. It was a hilarious turn of events because I don't think they were really wrong, but it just really, really blew up.
No, it's a very odd box score. I mean, you look at the thing that jumps off the screen, obviously, is Israel Abanikanda, 36 carries, 320 yards, 8.9 yards per rush, and 6 touchdowns. But you look at some of the other stuff that's really interesting. Grant Wells threw the ball 47 times, and he had 277 yards. He had a 70.2 QBR. Keaton Slovis literally didn't have to do anything, but he did throw 15 for 28 for 170. He had an interception.
Shocked.
Man, it was...
That is such a Keaton Slovis stat line.
And then Caleb Smith in that game had 9 catches for 152 yards. I actually am curious when we've had a receiver put up those type of numbers previous to that performance. But that was yet another game. One of my favorite statistics. You're getting killed in the rushing game when you have safeties leading your team in tackles. And what do you know? Chamari Connor and Nasir Peoples led the team in tackles. That means that they were making tackles 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So that is the recap on Pittsburgh versus Virginia Tech. Yes, it's a fun rivalry. I am fired up that you guys are on our schedule every single year. I don't know how fired up I'm going to be after Saturday, but I gather that you guys kind of have that same thought line. And I know, Pat, you're going to hit the storylines. We also got a comment here from YouTube. Where is it? And it is from Brock. Hail to Pitt. It's a mid-off this week. It is indeed. What is going on, guys? Like, coming into the season, Phil Jurkovec, I'm like, guy's probably going to do pretty well. Solid quarterback. Before the season, I'm thinking, he's probably an NFL prospect, probably has a chance to get drafted. Pat Narduzzi does a great job developing folks. And, I can somewhat understand why we are where we are, but why are you guys where you are?
Phil Jurkovec.
Squid, I'd counter that. I would say that last week proved that this is a Frank Signetti problem. I mean, if you want a really deep explanation of it, we have a head coach who doesn't think that you need to score points to win a football game, actually prefers that you do not. If you can win time of possession, you win the football game. So he keeps going out and finding the oldest, just most retro play callers that he can. And he happened upon a guy who was okay at Boston College, known football powerhouse in Frank Signetti. And Frank Signetti has basically poisoned the offensive half of this program. A year after he was hired, the year after we had the greatest offensive football team in the history of the program, Kenny Pickett throwing for 42 touchdowns. We had 40 something points a game, and they decided we're going to run the ball, and then we're going to run the ball. But then after that, we're going to run the ball. And if it's 3rd and long, we're going to have these long developing 4-vert routes, maybe a screen. So it hasn't worked. It worked a little bit last year because we had Izzy Abanikanda, who's more God than man. But this year, we only have Rodney Hammond, who's very good, not a guy who's going to run for 3 80-yard touchdowns in a game, but very good, and a quarterback who is not very good. And then Frank Signetti just kind of seems to be poisoning the well because our backups are apparently very bad too. And they got a chance on last Saturday because Phil was very bad. I bet you're noticing a theme here.
2 bad football teams. Nope, not tucked away on whatever that CW, the CW network. It's prime time, baby. And, both of these teams are desperate for a win. So, Pat, let's dive into one of these, some of these storylines here. The first one's my favorite, and I actually want to know if this is true.
What's the deal on the rumblings of Pat Narduzzi? Is he going to accept a job at Michigan State, his former home? Is this just a rumor? Is it swirling, or is there fire to the smoke?
I do not believe that there is any smoke. It is very funny that whenever a lot of the fans are starting to turn on Narduzzi again after a bad start, that this is happening. So maybe people are more open to this rumor. But he turned down Michigan State before, back whenever there was an opening, was it 4 or so years ago? They came to with a pretty hefty offer, and he said, "No, I'm cool here. I hate East Lansing." He didn't actually say that, but I'm assuming he thought that. And he had a good thing going here. Now things aren't looking as great, but I think we're fine. Some Pitt fans might not like that, but I think we're fine.
Can I say something about Pat Narduzzi? Look,
here we go.
I've made fun of Pat Narduzzi before. I've done it. He makes it easy sometimes. He does through some of his actions. But this is more of a message to Virginia Tech. People get confused. It's basically any sport. When you strongly dislike somebody, you think they suck. Pat Narduzzi does not suck. He is very much, I call it the Marcus Smart conundrum. If he's your guy, you love him. You love him because he seems to eat, sleep, and poo Pittsburgh. And he's brash. He's aggressive. He's very much himself. He has his own personality. And I think that's very much kind of the relationship I have with Pat Narduzzi. I think he's a really, really good ball coach. I think he has a really, really good culture at Pittsburgh. He's recruited above what Pittsburgh, if we're being all honest, probably recruiting above what Pittsburgh either should be recruiting at or has recruited at in the past, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I wouldn't call myself a Pat Narduzzi fan, but I am absolutely an admirer of what he has done at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't think Narduzzi has many fans outside of East Lansing in Pittsburgh. I think he's pretty widely hated outside of that, probably for the reason you just said.
Good old Pat. Billy Ray, you mentioned that this game is not tucked away on the regional sports network, but rather it is in prime time at 8 p.m. on the ACC network. And you're like, wait a second, why? You have a 1-3 team and you have a 1-3 team, and the crew has already been to Blacksburg, and ESPN's coming for Syracuse Thursday night in a few weeks. So you're like, wait, what's going on here? Oh, well, if you actually look at the ACC schedule, Florida State's on a bye. Miami is on a bye. North Carolina is also on a bye. Wake Forest is on a bye. You got Louisville and NC State, which probably would have been the game that's on Friday night. You got Duke and Notre Dame in the primetime spot on ABC. You got Clemson and Syracuse on ABC at noon. And then that leaves Virginia at BC and Bowling Green at Georgia Tech. So naturally,
there was no option.
naturally, you know,
we were the last girl at the bar at 2 a.m.
Yeah. You can say what you want about Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech will put a football game in a great position to be on prime time because this game sold out like 3 weeks ago. So obviously you're going to get good ratings and you're going to get a nice Enter Salmon and some solid production. again. So that being said, let's talk about these teams. Let's talk about the football game. Pittsburgh comes in at 1-3. You beat Wofford week 1. Common win from us. We also beat Wofford last year, so might have to trade some notes. Lost to Cincinnati week 2.
Be larger, be faster, have funding. Is that what you guys got from it last year?
Yes, that's what happened. That's what happened. Lost to Cincy week 2. Lost to West Virginia in the backyard brawl in Morgantown, and then most recently lost to Carolina in Acrisure Stadium last weekend. Virginia Tech for the Loyal Sons following. We are 1-3 as well. We defeated a lesser opponent in week 1 in Old Dominion at home, and then have lost the last 3. Purdue at home, Rutgers on the road, and most recently Marshall on the road as well. So something's got to give. Billy Ray, I know you're teeing up some cues.
Yeah, no, I have a question. I know that you guys hate Penn State. I know that you guys hate West Virginia. And I don't want to, everybody kind of imagines themselves as like, you're the hero in your own movie. But who do you guys hate in the ACC? Like, who do you guys dislike? And that's not really more of a reflection on like you guys not having like a rival. It's just in the ACC in general, like who do you love to hate the most? Because I don't know if there's somebody. I think it's us. Do you guys hate us the most? Is it us?
We're unrivaled.
Okay, cute. But who do you like? If you had to power rank your top 3 teams that you hate in the ACC, who are they?
This could go a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
But can I give it a shot, Squid and David?
Go for it.
Give me UNC.
I hate them.
Miami, Virginia Tech, and
Miami.
that could go in any order. The Miami hate kind of comes from we've had this weird rivalry with them where it's like we beat them when we're not supposed to, they beat us when they're not supposed to. Every time we play them, it's they have dudes. UNC beat us the first 6 times we played them in the ACC. Larry Fedora had Narduzzi's number, and
I'll tell you whose number he did not have. And that was Justin Fuente back in the day.
Yeah. And
A lot of good that's doing them now. Both of them, I guess.
So it's us, Miami, and Carolina. Okay, that makes sense.
I would say we hated Virginia Tech a little bit more, maybe 5-6 years ago. I think we kind of disliked the teams that were overrated by the media. So now you see every year Miami top 25. Virginia Tech was kind of hanging around that range a little bit too long, I think. People kept putting them in the top 25 and they'd have an average season. So we're like, they're not that good. We're better than them. So I don't think you're there anymore. It's kind of like we're almost in the same boat. So I don't hate you as much.
We hate the teams that constantly get given the benefit of the doubt. So, when we open the first AP preseason poll in July or August, whatever, and we see, regardless of the results last year, Virginia Tech and Miami in there, that gets us fired up. We're big rankings guys in terms of the fact that we just get pissed off at them.
You never get the benefit of the doubt ever. I will say that, and I do think that that's BS. But you guys do never get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
we have not been in those rankings for a while. I'm just
yeah.
I was gonna say you guys have played your way out of that.
Yeah. Damn. All right, more storylines.
Wait, do you hate us back?
Yeah.
I don't hate you. I don't hate you the way that I hate UNC. I hate UNC because they're soft. Like I hate UNC because they're soft and they're always overranked. And I love showing that they're soft. I do love beating Pittsburgh. I do. But at that same standpoint, Pat, I don't know if you feel this way. I'm never fired up to play Pitt. I was fired up to play you guys in 2019, but every other year I'm just like, damn, dude, we gotta play Pitt. Because playing Pitt is essentially, in my mind, playing Pitt is like playing a Big Ten team. You're going to have a massive offensive line. You're going to have a great running back, and you guys are going to have a solid defense. That's basically
Now I hate Virginia Tech.
See, you meant that in a nice way, but that is about as low as you could blow us.
The Loyal Sons
oh.
hate the Big Ten.
Really?
Squid
Well,
phrasing.
you
Oh.
should start to like it, because if you stick around in the ACC for much longer, you're probably going to be in a bad spot.
Oh yeah, we'd be a 10-win team in the Big Ten every year.
What? Wow.
Wow. Maybe the Big Ten West.
Whew.
Yeah, no quarterbacks in that conference.
I'm going to have to look at Pitt's record versus the Big Ten while Pat goes down the storylines. Pat, go ahead.
There's a couple bowl losses with backup quarterbacks. We'll give you those.
All right. Yeah, I think so. Going up there in 2016, I had some awful Pitt fans sitting behind me. We were standing up during the game, and it wasn't like, hey, can you please sit down? It was like, let me scream at this kid, please sit down. Like, it was awful.
Yeah, they're the worst.
It was kind of weird. I was like, dude, I have like a love-hate relationship with the fan base, because the Pitt fans are, they're gritty college football fans, right? We have this Big East thing that we have in common, and you guys actually care. But ever since you moved out of Oakland to Heinz Field, Acrisure, I know things have been different too. Okay. Anywho,
Real quick, Pat, just real quick, because facts matter. Facts are important. Pitt's overall record versus the Big Ten since 1972 is 11-20 with a winning percentage of .355. You are 2-0 against Illinois, which is nice. 1-3 versus Iowa, 0-3 versus Michigan State, 2-0 versus Minnesota, 1-6 versus Ohio State, and 2-6 versus Penn State. So doesn't really stack up. Not sure if you'd win 10 games in the Big Ten, but hey, neither would we. We wouldn't win 10 games in the Big Ten either. So
Give it 3 or 4 years, however long it takes for the ACC to fold, and we'll circle back.
That's right. That's right.
So Matt Goncalves, I think I said that right.
Gonsalves.
Goncalves.
But credit to you, that was pretty good.
Yeah, preseason first team All ACC went down last week, starting left tackle for Pittsburgh. Out. Is that a huge blow?
Yeah. He this is an already kind of beaten up O-line, hasn't looked great this year, and we just lost our top guy. So yeah, it's not a great look.
Yeah, I have known that Pittsburgh's quarterbacks have been under duress the entirety of the year, and this obviously is good for our defensive line, which needs to put pressure on a quarterback. But let's talk about quarterback for a sec. Phil Dracovic.
No. We're good.
Phil, was he booed at home? Did that happen?
Quite a bit.
He's been booed multiple
lot.
times at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
on the
we'll
road in West Virginia, everyone booed him.
We'll lead in with that. I know Phil Dracovic has known to talk a little bit. I remember when he went to play at Notre Dame last year, there was some stuff on social media that he posted that was kind of strange. And he's a local guy from Pittsburgh. So, you kind of have that hometown hero feel, but then he gets on the field and kind of seems like anything but. This is not Phil Dracovic's first game against Virginia Tech. He's been a college student for a long time. This will actually be his 6th game against the Hokies as a member of 3 different teams. And in games that he has actually played, he is 1-2 as a starter. You talk about 2020. He went 28 of 51, threw for 345, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in a loss when he was at BC. 2021, arguably a top 5 worst game in the Fuente era. Phil Dracovic only went 7 of 13 for 112 yards and an interception. Not much was going for any Hokie game. Any Hokie fan who was at that game in 2021 at Boston College, I just feel for you. And then last year in Lane Stadium, 15 of 28 for 135, a touchdown and a pick. We sacked him like 6 or 7 times. And this year, kind of more of the same, right above 50% at 46 of 90 for 583 yards, 4 scores and 3 picks. And we know he got hurt in the Carolina game early after getting off to a great start, it seemed. I didn't watch the game, but just, checking out the numbers. Is he confirmed out this week? Is that still up in the air? I know it was concussion protocol from getting hit on a targeting call.
Pat Narduzzi will not hint one way or another. The closest hint we got was that Nate Yarnell, our third string quarterback, will be more prepared to play this week. Direct quote from Coach Pat. So I don't think we'll know until kickoff. That quote alone kind of made me feel like they're prepping him to come in if Vair's not ready to go. But quite frankly, I have as good an idea as you guys do right now.
And we can share our hand a little bit at the quarterback position. So our third string quarterback, Pop Watson, who a lot of people before the season, I gave Chris Riegert a lot of grief. A lot of national media members have been asking, why are you guys not playing Pop Watson? To me, it's because he's 176 pounds, but has a live arm, really athletic. He was suspended last week. He is now back with the team. So he's in the fold.
What'd he do?
We can let the people guess, but we'll leave it at that. But he's back after a week. He's back after a week. Handled what he needed to handle. Pat put it out. Probably had to do some sprints. But he's back with the team. And then Grant Wells, who was our starter early on in the year. I think personally, number one, if he was healthy, you probably still go with Kyron Drones because of what he adds to the run game. I also think he's more banged up than people think. That's just kind of been the talk of town, is that he's been pretty banged up. So quarterback situation is interesting because Kyron Drones is such a great runner. He's a good runner. He adds running to the fold for Virginia Tech. But if he gets hurt, not really sure what Virginia Tech does if he does go down. So that's kind of the quarterback situation at Virginia Tech.
So we should try to knock him out of the game.
I suppose so. We're going to jump into some lines here. Some were submitted. Pat, see if you can get any from Grant Watson, because I know there are some in here.
Yeah, I'll pull them up from the bottom.
But these are the lines. And what do you guys call this segment?
The Loyal Sons Sportsbook.
Loyal Sons Sportsbook.
Brought to you by the original Big Shot Bobs in Avalon and Kennedy.
Big Shot Bobs. Big shout out to Big Shot Bobs. So the first one, and we'll just go round robin here. More interceptions or passing touchdowns. And again, this isn't even grief. I just truly believe that there'll be more interceptions than there are passing touchdowns. I think Tech is going to commit to the run game after what we saw after one quarter. Virginia Tech on paper has the second best passing defense in America. Now Pat's laughing. We do have very talented defensive backs. I think that number is that way because teams just run the ball at will against us and they don't need to pass the ball. So fortunately for us, you guys can't, well, I guess it's not even fortunately for us. You guys are going to run the ball and we know you're going to run the ball. And, I'm not too confident we can stop you from doing so. So anybody have anything else? Anybody think there'll be more passing touchdowns? I think we'll be, all aligned on that.
Picks. Just because of the way Pitt has been all season and also the fact that our backups might be starting this one.
The only way it goes under is if we just don't pass the ball, which is a serious option.
Well, let's hope that's not the option that you guys choose.
Pittsburgh over under 199.5 rushing yards. I'm going over.
Yeah, this is probably going to hit. It sounds like your guys' running back room is pretty talented. I know you don't have Izzy back there, but historically Pitt has a good running back. And have you guys ran for over 200 yards this season?
Absolutely not. Talented, but underutilized is how I would put this. And the offense has looked absolutely putrid in all facets, but I'm going to say over just because I know Narduzzi has been looking at the box scores and the film from the previous Virginia Tech games and has had some strong words with Frank Signetti that we are going to run the ball 50 times on Saturday. I don't care how it's going. So
then we got Grant Watson submitted some over-unders. Virginia Tech first quarter points, 6.5. If history serves here, Virginia Tech, other than the Marshall game, we only have scored in the first quarter one time, and it was against Old Dominion, and it was a safety. If Virginia Tech gets the ball first and has a nice little spark, is feeding off that first quarter Lane Stadium energy, we'll see. But Grant, I'm probably taking the under here. Yeah, I think Billy would agree with you.
I'm aligned.
Pittsburgh rushing yards total 174.5. I think the
over.
Talk louder.
Over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Pitt fans on the pod will say under. I think the Hokie fans on the pod will say over. Virginia Tech sacks 2.5.
I'll go over on that. I think this is going to be a serious defensive I think this is going to be a disgusting game. I hope that the Sickos committee has this on their watch list, because they absolutely should. I can see both teams getting after the quarterback, just with how bad our offensive line has been thus far. They've been okay in pass protection, but yeah, I can see that. I can see that going over.
Billy, you know how you have a jar you put $1 in every time you say the word gritty?
Yes.
We have the same thing, but it's the phrase rock fight.
Yes.
And Pat Narduzzi loves his rock fights, and this is going to be a rock fight.
Yes, absolutely.
I would much rather have a Pat Narduzzi rock fight than a Justin Fuente 3.5-hour stomach ache.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be both. And then rounding us out here, Pitt total points 23.5. I'm going to go with a very smidge over, and you'll hear that in my score prediction. But I'll say over.
I'm saying under.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Loyal Sons, and I'm just like, these guys are going to say under, and I'm going to agree with them.
The lines for the game are Pittsburgh -2.5, and the over/under is a barn burner 39.5. I mean, I feel like every single week we read the over/unders for Virginia Tech. We're previewing Iowa. That's just kind of where we are right now. So
great company.
I guess I'm going to give you a little elevator pitch on what our offense is, and then you guys can ask us questions. Here's the thing with our offense. Our offense is not very good. We, I think, have the ability to run the football. Kyron Drones has added that ability for us to get creative and run the football. Bashal Tutin is a very talented running back who just does not have a lot to work with. When he has the ball in space, he's able to make plays. As far as the offensive line is concerned, not good. Virginia Tech is one of the worst rushing teams in the country. We're one of the worst third down teams in the country. We are one of the worst scoring touchdowns in the red zone teams in the country. So that's pretty much the offense. As far as the wide receiver room is concerned, Ollie Jennings going down has been a huge, huge issue for us. Players for you to look out for would be the Gosnell brothers. They've been pretty productive, good at catching the ball in space and falling down. They're kind of like, catch, get out of bounds, catch, get tackled guys. Daquan Felton has kind of stepped into that 1.5 role. Young player, really, really big. When you see him on TV, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy is massive. Just a little young. And then Jalen Lane is kind of, I don't want to call him a game breaker, but he's fast. He's sure-handed, and he's probably the most reliable wide receiver we have without Ollie Jennings in with his injury. So that's kind of the preview of our offense. Do you guys have any questions on that?
I'll fill in some gaps too. Jalen Lane has been battling a hamstring injury that he suffered in the Purdue game. Him and Ollie Jennings got hurt within a quarter of each other, and these were two of our biggest offensive gets in the portal over the offseason. So he will probably, I don't know if he's full go right now. He did play last week, but I think he had 1 or 2 catches, was not necessarily an impact player. Daquan Wright is a big body tight end, wears number 8. Every single time the ball is in his hands, he does register a first down, it seems like. I know he had a pretty good game last year at Pittsburgh. And then just to offer a little bit more about Bashal Tutin, our running back, super effective in the passing game. We got him 4 or 5 balls last week, had like 45 or 50 yards receiving, and just really did not get enough touches. Probably had 8 yards per touch, 10 yards per carry, was using him really well in the first half and only gave him 4 or 5 carries in the second half. So this is an offense that has been depleted by injuries. at this point in the season at quarterback, at wide receiver, and on the offensive line as well. A ton of issues on the offensive line where we just have guys standing like this, blocking nobody, it seems, when you run the tape back. So yeah, have fun. What kind of questions do you guys have? Or what have you guys seen from us on offense so far?
Is Grant Wells starting?
I would venture to guess no. I would say Kyron Jones is going to be the starter.
So it seems like you said a lot of bad things. What would have to happen for Virginia Tech to come out with a win?
Virginia Tech, in my opinion, is just take the script from what you did in the first quarter against Marshall and do that for more than 5 minutes. I think Tech did a really good job coming out and establishing the run, and we probably surprised ourselves a little bit that we established the run. The story of the season so far has been Virginia Tech falls behind by multiple scores, and the offense is just incapable of climbing over that hill. So, for me, I'll get into this in the keys of the game, but the defense has to hold it together early on in the game. We can't be playing catch up with our offense. One of the things that I do want to mention, I know this doesn't really fall under offense. If I had to give like an MVP for the season this far, it's our punter. Peter Moore has had an awesome season thus far. He's obviously been asked to punt a lot. He does help change the game. A lot of punts pinned inside the 10, inside the 5. That's been a solid unit for us. But I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of awesome things to say. Not a lot of awesome things to say about the offense thus far.
It's a
work in progress. Feel a little bit better.
Sure. So tell us about your offense.
I think we talked enough about how Phil Dracovic, our quarterback room, doesn't look very good. Everyone was calling for Phil to be benched, and he finally put together like a pretty solid first half. I think a big part of that was us figuring out a little bit of a balance between running and passing and keeping the defense off guard, because the weeks prior, it's like they're going to run, and it's going to be 3rd and long, and we can blitz them. They'll make a terrible pass. Very predictable, but we were a little bit unpredictable against UNC. We scored a little bit in the first half. And the backup quarterback, Christian Veyer, who everyone was calling for, came in and threw 2 interceptions and looked very uncomfortable.
Just trying to make a play.
Sure. So quarterback play, not good. We talked about Matt Gonzalez being out. The offensive line was supposed to be a strength this year, but there have been guys that are hurt. We have freshmen starting. It's all kind of jumbling around. So that's kind of a wild card. We don't know what the wide receivers are like because they don't get the ball. All we do know is Gavin Bartholomew is one of the top tight ends in the country and is severely underutilized because we can't get him the ball enough.
Yeah, Gavin Bartholomew is currently averaging 24 yards per reception. Problem is he only has 9 receptions on the year. And if I had to guess, I don't have the Pro Football Focus numbers in front of me. That's probably on like 12 targets.
Flipping the page over to the defense, I'll give you the elevator pitch on Virginia Tech's defense. We have a very talented linebacker core. We have a very old defensive core. I mean, Norrell Pollard, who had the scoop and score against you guys in 2019, is still on the team. He is still here. Mario Kendricks, who escorted him to the end zone, is also still on this team. But we have just not been able to, I mean, there's no other way to say this other than we're just not gap sound. We have a transfer defensive end from Florida, Antoine Powell Ryland, extremely talented. We just have a problem setting the edge and keeping contained. That has been better against Marshall and against Rutgers, for the exception of the back-breaking 56 or 58-yard touchdown. But teams have basically came every single week. We've played one-dimensional quarterbacks who are run first, and they have ran the ball on us as much as they've wanted to every single game. As far as impact players go for the defense, Kelly Lawson, one of the most freakish athletic people that you'll probably see all year. Again, I think he's still learning the position. He has basically been being productive off of instinct and talent. He was a wide receiver when he got to Virginia Tech and he got moved to linebacker. So he's still kind of learning the position. But that linebacking core and that defensive line, we've been waiting for them to show up at the level that we expected. Last year, the defense was one of the bright spots of that season. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we've just had we've basically every single game had one quarter or a half where the defense will tighten up. And at the end of the Marshall game, that was the second half, did a great job. I think the last 4 drives from Marshall, when we were trying to come back in the game, we ended in, we had them either turn the ball over or go 3 and out. But we haven't put together a complete game yet. We also haven't been tested through the air at all. Do have talented defensive backs, but nobody's ever had to really open up the playbook and throw it on us because they just run it on us at will. So I really don't know what our pass defense is, other than I can say that we're the second best in the country according to a statistic. So that's our defense. Questions?
So if we don't have a quarterback who can run the ball, do you think we can just hand it to our tailbacks they can get the job done?
Probably.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll try to transfer that info to Signetti, because for some reason our stud tailback still hasn't had more than 15 touches in a game. Yeah.
If you're listening, this is a fun game. I mean, this is a fun. I haven't been on a podcast before where both teams were kind of like, "Wait, you suck too." It's been kind of interesting.
This one's gettable.
Yeah, this one's gettable. So it's going to be interesting. I think. Yeah, it's kind of like that scene in The Office where everybody's holding up the fake guns, and you're kind of like, "How's this going to play out?" So that's very much what this looks like. Impact players, I didn't mention him. Mansour Delane was a freshman All-American. Again, hasn't really been tested through the air because teams haven't had to do that. Our safeties are great at making tackles. They are asked to make tackles far too often, but Strong and Stroman. You'll remember Greg Stroman. His younger brother is a safety for us now, and he's an absolute stud. So the superstars, quote unquote, of our defense thus far, in my opinion, have been our safeties, because we are asking them to do so much.
Yeah, if you know that. We had a safety with 18 tackles against West Virginia. Great. He's a great tackler, but why is he in position to do that so much, like we talked about earlier? So maybe this is a game where the 4 safeties combine for like 55 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been on our over-unders.
I like that. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll see in my description it says Keyshawn Burgo's legacy game. That is one of our defensive ends. And if I know anything about Pittsburgh from the last hour and 2 minutes we've been chatting, is that you guys cannot hold off DTs or defensive ends from getting to the quarterback. Can this be the game where Virginia Tech gives Pittsburgh's quarterback hell in the pocket or out of the pocket, whether it's Keyshawn Burgos, whether it's Powell Ryland, as Billy Ray mentioned as well, Cole Nelson, or you see Mario Kendricks and Norrell Pollard, Feldarius Payne, who had a great game against Marshall, Josh Fuga clogging the middle and getting through to the quarterback as well. But yeah, Squid, you guys talked about the safeties at Pittsburgh. Would love to hear a little bit more about the guys up front and the guys in the middle as well. What's going on with the Panthers on D?
I think the reason we think a few of these games on our schedule are gettable is we think our defense is pretty good. I'm going to chalk up the UNC game as a wash because we had no offensive attack to support the defense. We gave up 41 points or whatever. But I think our defense can keep us in games. I think they can steal a few games for us. So I'm confident that we'll be able to stop the run, and apparently VT doesn't have much of a passing attack. So if we can key in on the run, the Pat Narduzzi special, if we stop the run, we win the game. That gives me some hope.
Special teams.
Wait. I got some notes. I got some notes and quotes, Bill. Hang on. So Pittsburgh giving up 28.3 points per game, which is 79th nationally. 18.7 first downs per game, which is 46th nationally. Now, I know you guys said this earlier. If you control the time of possession, you win the football game, according to Pat Narduzzi. The opposition of Pittsburgh is averaging 33 minutes and 1 second with the ball. So that would explain the record. That's good for 117th nationally. And then you guys have only picked off one pass all year, have recovered 2 fumbles. I know that the turnover, I think it's -4 overall on the year. Donovan McMillan.
Oh, I know that name.
We're familiar with him. We really wanted him a few summers ago. He chose the Gators, and he actually leads the team in tackles now at Pittsburgh. Came in through the portal, and pretty bummed that we missed out on D Mac. I know he's a Pennsylvania guy. Javon McIntyre, another safety, 22 total tackles, and then Solomon DeShields, 21 total tackles. So DeShields and Shane Simon, it sounds like, are the guys in the middle, and then the big boys are Samuel. You guys got some fun names.
Lola. Yeah.
Lola.
So let me give you a rundown on that front 7 real quick. So DeShields and Brandon George and Shane Simon, they're the ones leading in tackles. The guy who's gotten all the hype for the last 2 preseason camps, Bengali Kamara, he's our guy, and he's the one that we're waiting to like have that game where it's like, oh, this is why we've heard so much hype about him. He's the one that everyone points to on the defense. It's like that guy should play in the NFL in a year. But we haven't really seen that play out on Saturdays. And then on the D line,
Andy's hurt. Just throwing that out there. Also,
he was in a boot last week, but
recurring theme.
Yeah, recurring theme. And then if you look at the D line, we've got a ton of experience up there. We've got 3 6-year seniors rotating at D tackle. We've got a 5th-year senior on the end, Nate Temple. Dayon Hayes was a big recruit, 4th-year guy. So a lot of experience there, or should I say a lot of years in college. Temple and Hayes really getting on the field more because they were behind a bunch of guys who have now moved on to professional football, but kind of missing those playmakers on the D-line that Pitt's had in years past, the Kalijah Canseys, Jalen Twymans. So we're not getting that same type of production from the D-line. I also think it's partly because they're playing catch-up in a lot of these games, and it makes it a little tougher to pin your ears back. But there's the defense we think is pretty good, but there's still a lot that we want to see to feel a little better. But I don't know how much better we could feel right now with this record.
What's up with this guy DeAndre Jules? Because just looking at YouTube, I feel like he's definitely had his fair share of press conferences. Is he an impact guy, or is he just someone they're putting in front of the cameras?
Jules is a guy. He's another one of those guys who's just been sitting behind these players who can now play college football for 6 years because of COVID, and he really has never really been able to break out as a consistent rotation guy. Well, this year in camp, they said he came in, he looked great shape, standard camp talk, best shape of his life, but has actually been able to break into the rotation a bit. He's huge, he's scary. How much of an impact will he make? That remains to be seen. But he's kind of just part of that rotation of experienced, older interior D linemen that have kind of left a little bit to be desired.
So we'll roll into special teams unless you guys have any other comments on the D.
Let's move on.
We have a good secondary, but we'll leave it at that.
Special teams. We'll talk about Pittsburgh first, just because it was a, call it, volatile weekend for special teams for Pitt last weekend. You guys surrendered a punt return touchdown to Carolina, and then you scored a kick return touchdown, Kenny Johnson. And then I know there was a blocked punt as well. What has the outlook on Pitt special teams been this year so far?
Well, Kenny Johnson, he housed the kickoff last week. He's a true freshman from York, PA. Probably the freshman with the most hype coming out of camp. And he only has 2 catches on the offensive side of the ball, but pretty much showed off his athleticism on that kick return. He's a guy that everyone within the program is really excited about. And honestly, wouldn't be surprised if you guys see a little bit more of that, on the offensive side of the ball moving forward. The punt block, Raheem Biles he's a freshman as well. Rasheem Biles, he has 2 block punts right now, tied for first in the country. And in the kicking game, we've got Ben Sauls, who, if you remember the Sun Bowl last year, went 5 for 5, hit the game winner against UCLA. Has had mixed results this year so far. But I mean, he's a reliable older kicker. And then that punt return last week, that broke our back. That pretty much was when I think we all looked around like, okay, we won't be winning this one. Andre Powell, he's the special teams coach and the running backs coach. I think there's some mixed thoughts on how good he is at either of those from time to time, depending on how those groups are performing. But it's a long call from last year when we were trying 3 different punters throughout the span of a game late last season. Now we just have one punter that we use all the time, which is good.
He's a Nepo walk-on, and he hits bombs.
Caleb Junko, baby.
Keys to the game. I'm going to stand up for this one. I'm going to stand up. I'm putting my desk into sports mode. Look, I just want to try something different. I have seen the same movie for 3 losses in a row. It's just a request, okay? Coach Foster went into Ohio State in 2014. Nobody thought we were going to win the game. And what did he do? He came in with a bare front, and he had 5 down and said, you're not going to run the ball. Our corners and our safeties and our secondary are going to go guy on guy at Ohio State, and we are going to stop the run game. It's not happening. Ezekiel Elliott, it's not happening today. There's no Ezekiel Elliott on Pittsburgh's football team, as far as I know. So for the last 3 games, we've given up 179 yards, 256 yards, and 214 yards. On paper, we have the second best pass defense in the country. I want you to take Jenkins, I want you to take Strong, or I want you to take Stroman, and I want you to put him in the box. I want you to load the box and say, hey, Pittsburgh, you're not going to run the ball today. We're going to make Philly J have to throw the ball through the air. And if he throws for 900 yards, that's fine. At least we lost in a different fashion. Or maybe we'll win the game because we will try something different. This is not a key to the game. It is a request. Please try to stop the run.
Was that the Shy McKenzie game you're referring to?
It is the Shy McKenzie game I'm referring to. A recruiting win over the state of Pennsylvania, getting him down to Blacksburg.
And then what happened?
I mean, he beat Ohio State.
You know,
Worth it. It was worth it for as long as he was on the team. But
Give that one a Google if you don't know what we're talking about. But we'll move on from there.
don't step on my lead, bro. Stop the run. Stop the run today. There's so many people hitting the Google machine right now. Pat, what is your key to this football game?
We saw the success last week, and then we went away from it. But get the ball to Bashal Tootin. And also let Kyron Jones move left and move right outside of the pocket. But let's get Bashal Tootin going again in the passing game, and let's give him more than 9 carries, 20 touches for Tootin. TTT. I also got some keys here. You need to feed off the energy of this home crowd. We need body language to improve because it hasn't been good when we watch on TV, and it hasn't been good when we're sitting there in our seats and looking across the field. Need to see some leadership emerge from this football program. Who is going to bring our team up from a 3-game losing streak? And then getting to the quarterback. That's really it. Getting to the quarterback and no busted running plays is your key to the game from the Virginia Tech side. That's what the Sons of Saturday say, but what do the loyal Sons have to say? David, you're first.
All right, so the Pitt Panther key to the game. Leave Frank Signetti Jr. in Allegheny County. Dylan, your turn.
Give your good players the football. Rodney Hammond, very good running back. Give him a lot of touches. Gavin Bartholomew, very good tight end. Quite possibly the best player on our football team. Give him a lot of targets. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, so this might go with David's point in point one of leaving Frank Signetti behind or get in his ear and tell him that he needs to get his playmakers the ball.
Dylan kind of stole my key of the game. I was going to specifically say give those two the ball, so I'll expand on that a little bit. Be unpredictable. When we played West Virginia, everybody in the stands knew what play was coming. And after the first drive, West Virginia started putting 8 in the box and blitzing up the gut. We couldn't do anything. Same thing against UNC. We had a good first drive, mixing up a little bit, but it's a theme. After the first couple drives, defenses figure us out. All it takes is like one sit down on the sideline with the team huddle, make a quick adjustment, and boom, you got us figured out. So be a little bit unpredictable. I like what we did last week with Phil with a lot of play action, quick passes. Against Cincinnati, for some reason, we thought we were Oklahoma State with Mason Rudolph and James Washington and tried throwing it deep all the time. Clearly, it doesn't work. So keep Virginia Tech's defense on their toes a little bit. I know we're not going to have a good passing attack, but at least try to have that threat.
Score predictions.
Oh,
Guys, we've learned a lot about Pittsburgh. You guys have learned a lot about Virginia Tech. It does feel like we are looking in a mirror right now. Now, that is not to say that there are a lot of young guys on both of these ball clubs that are getting very valuable game experience. It sounds like you guys have a true freshman who's doing a lot of great things. We have guys on our defense getting some good opportunities out there as well. That being said, I'll kick it off on our side here. I had Virginia Tech losing to Pittsburgh 20-17. And then the more I learned about Pittsburgh and the more that I found out that you guys are actually very similar to Virginia Tech is playing this football game at home. And I am going to pick Virginia Tech because you guys are playing a quarterback that likely, is not going to have a very good time. You just lost your left tackle, who's probably one of the best players on your team. So I'm actually flipping the script, and I have Hokies 20-17. Billy Ray.
I mean, I fully anticipated coming into this podcast picking us to lose as well. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. Florida State's on a bye week right now. We play Florida State next week. I just really don't want to go through another week of losing with another week of losing staring us at in the face next week. And I know I have no impact on the game with my score prediction at all, 0%. I'm going to follow Pat. I was originally predicting us to lose the game 16-24. I'm going to go with Tech winning this game and not feel very good about it, but I'm going to go with Tech winning the game 24-20. The over hits, Tech covers, and Twitter is less of a absolute cesspool, horrible place to be for at least a week. So I'll go 24-20 Virginia Tech.
I can kick it off on our side. If you think I'm going to come on here and look Billy and Pat in the face and pick Virginia Tech over Pitt, you're dead wrong. I think it's going to be an ugly one. Both teams sound like they're having their struggles, and it's like we said, someone needs to win, and both teams need a win. I'm going to go 20-14 Pitt. Under hits. It's an ugly one. We might even get some surprise showers down in Blacksburg. Wouldn't surprise me.
Let me start off with a question. What is the deal with the whiteout?
Pat, this is perfect. Go, Pat.
So we were actually, Pat's rant of the week is actually coming at an earlier scheduled time now because of David's question. But we do this thing called the whiteout. It used to be for Hermer's readers, Frank Beamer's mother, to benefit children's literacy in the New River Valley and Southwest Virginia. Since then, it has been rebranded more so to the military appreciation game. However, you can very much, and I say this not just for me, not just for Billy Ray, but for the entirety of the Virginia Tech fan base, you can appreciate the military without having to wear white at home. And we've been doing this forever, it seems like. I think the first whiteout game was maybe like 2005 or 2006. Like it's probably a 20+ year tradition at this point. And it's, hey, let's sell some t-shirts. And you go and you look at the t-shirts, and they are not t-shirts that anyone is buying. They're even selling hats. There are so many better ways that we can honor the military and appreciate the military than wearing white at home on primetime television. The last time we did the white effect or the whiteout or whatever you want to call it was in 2019. The last time it was in primetime, 2019. On a Friday night, ACC Network crew was in town, and we lost to Duke 45-10. The white effect is awful. So I could continue to talk for the next 10 minutes about this, David and team. We are not Penn State. I don't know why we do the white effect. Half the time, we don't even wear all white jerseys during the white effect. I don't even like our white helmets that much. That's it.
Hot take on the helmets, but I couldn't agree with you more on the whiteout. And I think the problem with it is, and I understand Penn State wears blue, but so many people wear maroon on game day, and it just, if you don't have full participation, it just looks poor. It does not look good. I'm going to wear white. I'm assuming Pat will wear white because we'll do what you ask us to do.
Take a stand, Pat.
Yeah, Pat's.
We're neon.
Can we just do like a camouflage out instead? I would actually be more for that. And I'm sure a lot of people in Southwest Virginia would be down with a camouflage out for the military appreciation. I think that would actually be kind of cool. You're welcome for the free game, athletic department. But yeah, no, it's bad. It looks bad. It's we don't play well when we do it. So that's it on the white effect.
Well, the last time this many people wore all white in Virginia, that got ugly too. Pitt 28, Virginia Tech 17.
David is not pulling any punches today. Squid, go ahead. Yeah, David, you're fired.
I went down swinging, Billy.
I can't top that. It's going to be a weird, ugly game, so I'm going with a weird score. Pitt wins 19-16. 19. I don't know how we get there. Maybe a bunch of field goals, maybe a safety, block punts. Who knows?
If that doesn't say rock fight, I mean, 1916 equals rock fight. You look up rock fight in the dictionary, 19-16.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll open this up for everybody. So if you're watching live, feel free to shoot questions or shoot game day suggestions. But this is for all of the Pittsburgh people that are making the trip to Virginia Tech. Just things that you have to do. Pat, do you want to kick that off?
I'm more than happy to. All right. Let me delete the note on the white effect rant. So, you guys have, I know. Okay. So Squid and Dylan, you guys have been. David, you have not. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, first of all, welcome. Hope you have a fantastic time. You are going to meet some very kind people. Every fan base does have a-holes. Hopefully you don't meet any of them on Saturday. I think as a collective, we do have a very kind and welcoming fan base, even though, Pittsburgh, this is a long time rivalry dating back to 93. Let's see. Plenty of places to check out downtown. You got all day long to hang out, tailgate, check out the sights and scenes. But I want to kick things off with doing a little campus tour. Maybe myself and Billy Ray will give you the classic walking backwards. This is where I lived freshman year. This is where I studied my business classes, blah, blah, blah. We have a very pretty campus. Check out the pylons, check out the Virginia Tech 416 Memorial, check out Burris. Obviously, the way that the Virginia Tech athletic facilities are set up is very complimentary to the campus. It's right next to where the students live. So, you get all your freshmen living right next to the basketball arena and living right next to Lane Stadium. I want to talk about downtown a little bit. You can go to the Cellar, get an awesome bite to eat, check out Sharky's. I definitely recommend going to Top of the Stairs and trying a rail. You do have all day long, so just pace yourself if you try a rail, but a Tots rail is definitely on what many would say the Blacksburg bucket list. Go to Benny's, try a slice at Benny's. If you don't get to Benny's in town, you can actually consume Benny's in Lane Stadium. This is new for 2023. But Benny's, it's a pizza that's like this big. They're actually branding all up and down the East Coast now. And they're founded in Virginia Tech. I think they have like 30 locations now. The Virginia Slice is what it's known as.
We have a Benny's in Pittsburgh, I'm pretty sure. I think it's the same one.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's some ACC loving we're showing you guys. How about it?
Biggest pizza box I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Is that the one Danish tried to eat the whole pizza?
Yes,
And then he threw up
the
everywhere?
challenge.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's really hard to eat a whole one of those, I'm told.
Hard. It's near impossible.
Let's see. What else do we got? There's no Big Al's. Can't send you to Big Al's. If you go to Rivermill, Rivermill is right around the corner from top of the stairs. You could try what we like to call a river bomb. It's an Irish car bomb. Souvlaki. If you guys like, Mediterranean or Greek gyros, souvlaki is like essentially this hole in the wall place that's been in Blacksburg forever. And they have unbelievable gyros at souvlaki. Definitely recommend running in there and trying a souvlaki gyro. Bill, you want to take tailgating?
Yeah, tailgating's fantastic. You can just beep bop around all of campus and all around the football stadium. For those who have never been there, again, the athletic facility is nestled right on the edge of campus. Plenty of great people, plenty of great opportunities. Again, I would highly encourage you all to check out campus, check out town. It's all very walkable. Once you park, you don't need to do anything else. You can walk everywhere that you want to go. So, that's kind of the lay of the land there. That's pretty much it. It's a great place to watch a football game. We do have an awesome entrance. Try to get into the stadium early. Pat and I, we're maybe a little bit on the early side. We get in about an hour early. But definitely 30 minutes before kickoff, you want to be in the stadium. You don't want to be caught up and miss any of the pregame festivities. So that's absolutely something that you want to do.
Yeah, I will say too, Dylan and Squid, did you guys go to Center Street or did you guys check that out? Check out the scene over there prior to the 2019 game?
We were at Center Street, right? It's Squid. It was with there's a bunch of apartments over there, and there's
a sea of people.
A sea of people.
Yeah, it's you walk through the woods to get to the stadium from there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it was raining all day, so we actually played a 11-on-11, not football game, a single play of football, only with a Natty Light can, 11-on-11 Pitt fans versus Virginia Tech fans, and it was pretty electric. Not gonna lie.
Who won?
Pitt fans. I think we got a pick six.
Yeah, we intercepted the beer that was thrown.
Yeah, well, 2019, you guys were going over there as adults playing against our student bodies, and maybe we need maybe we need to get adult on adult.
Bunch of 6-year seniors.
We'll schedule that in a couple of years. And Pat, new partner alert.
I was gonna say R&R Wellness. This is gonna be probably our Sunday activity. We're going to this new place it's pretty new in Blacksburg. It's called Renew and Restore Wellness. It's the perfect place to go after a night out. You have a big time night out in Blacksburg, spinning, nausea, headache, hangover. Some cryotherapy. You need the energy back in the system. We're actually going to head there on Sunday. We're going to get some good content. We're going to check out R&R Wellness down South Main. So pretty fired up for that. This will be our first time. So Easter egg to all the listeners. Stay tuned because we're excited to get down there.
Absolutely. Letters from the lunch pail. Pat.
Oh, I think Pete McGee. We already answered this about the Virginia Tech versus Pitt rivalry. I think he says, where does the Virginia Tech versus Pitt rivalry stack up in each fan base's most important rivalries? I think you got tradition and you got history between these two schools, and you got fan bases that respect each other. Kind of a love-hate thing. We're not excited about the Pitt game, but we're excited about the Pitt game. And I think a lot of folks would agree with that. Here's one for the Loyal Sons. If Pat Narduzzi did bail, who would Pitt fans want as a replacement? This comes from Steve Bryce.
I think you're getting to us like a week or two too early before we can actually dive into who could potentially replace Pat Narduzzi. I feel like David would have a thought on this, though.
Wait, are we replacing
yes,
Pat
I do.
Narduzzi or the offensive coordinator?
Well, hold on. This is so funny because I know what our fan base would say if we were asked this question. It would be hire Mike Vick. It would be hire, somebody like that. So I'm curious, would you guys want to hire like Larry Fitzgerald or Tony Dorsett? Would that be who you guys would want to hire?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
To lose.
No, first of all, to reiterate, Narduzzi's not going to Michigan State. They are not going to try to hire Pat Narduzzi. That I don't think you can watch Pitt this year and be like, that's the guy, the one who tanked a program on the rise to prove a point about possession. They aren't going to do that. Although it is the Big Ten, and that is anyway. It would be Joe Moorhead if he wasn't doing like kind of a bad job at Akron. And it's like impossible to do a good job at Akron, but he also did like kind of a bad job at Mississippi State. So he's a Pittsburgh guy. It was thought for a while that it'd be sweet if he found his way home. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So I don't really know what. I think Signetti's going to get fired, and it'd be sweet if they hired Shanahan. Where's Shanahan, Dylan?
Mike Shanahan, James Madison.
Yeah, so former Pitt receiver, who's kind of killing it at James Madison as an offensive coordinator, and his quarterback's coach is one of the most maligned Pitt quarterbacks of the last 20 years until Phil Jurkovec. So it's kind of like a red pill, blue pill, take them both at once situation. But that is what I want to see. Pat's not going anywhere. Frank Signetti is. Give me Mike Shanahan.
I'll say this, and it's going to make a lot of our fans angry, but it's reality. JMU, if you just looked at a one-year sample size, is the best team in Virginia. If you would have had all of the Virginia teams play each other round robin, I'd have a very hard time thinking that JMU. I mean, what their coaching staff has done and what that university has done, investing in football, they have a tremendous, tremendous program. So I think you guys could do far worse than taking somebody from JMU. But look at this. We're spending 5 minutes talking about replacing a coach who is likely not to leave. I will be using that soundbite, David, though, if he does take the Michigan State job. Last question from Joe Rogers. What candidates would you propose for someone coming in to fix the offense, whether it's a Jerry Kill type or a new OC or a co-offensive coordinator?
You can steal the Mike Shanahan pick.
Yeah, that's true. That's the one thing. My answer to this question is I think the biggest problem that we have right now is just a lack of experience on the playing field and with the microphone being on the head. And I would love for somebody like a Jerry Quill to come in, and whether his role is sitting in on meetings, proposing play calling, or honestly taking over play calling. If that's something that they wanted to do, I personally am not big on replacing a coordinator completely in the middle of your season. I don't know of many times that has worked out well. So I would love to see Tech get somebody to come in and advise in any way whatsoever. I've done zero prep on this question. I'm just going to throw something out there, and I want to see Pat just live react to it. I don't even know if he has another job that he would be willing to walk away from. I mean, would you be willing to bring in, like, brace yourself. Would you be willing to bring in Brian Steinspring to advise and help recruit?
I mean, to help recruit, yeah, but I don't think Steiny is going to fix the offense. Would Steiny be able to put a better product together than what we are doing now? I think so. I mean, when we had Steinspring, it was mobile quarterbacks and running the football. And that's what we have right now. If you want to build around a quarterback, you build around Pop and Kyron Drones for the next few years. So that's where, okay, maybe we can use a guy like Steinspring. I think more so on the recruiting side, though, than the actual scheme. But, yeah, I mean, this is a good question from Joe because history lesson for the Pittsburgh folks. in 2019 when we, delivered the beatdown and, the last positive momentum that our program had in a long time, about halfway through the season, we hired Jerry Kill as kind of like a consultant, and he helped fix our offense. And we had Hendon Hooker and we had some great weapons, and it was sunshine and rainbows for a little bit. And then a few years ago, we hired John Tenuta, and he did pretty much the same thing, more so on the defensive side of the ball. No Jerry Kill. He's crushing it out in New Mexico. And
didn't he actually kill a guy?
No, that was Brick. Brick killed a guy.
Fun fact, after that beatdown against Pitt, our friend's uncle was at the bar and happened to be sitting next to Jerry Kill, and they shot the shit, had a few beers for a while. He told him all the dark secrets about the coaches that he liked and hated.
Jerry Kill.
Yeah. Jerry, good dude.
He fixed and turned him and Hendon Hooker. They turned around our 2019 campaign.
Is he killing it at his new job? Didn't they lose to Holy Cross?
I saw that they either made the Sun Bowl or he was wearing, something cultural to New Mexico. One of those. Yeah. I don't know what it's called. Very cool looking though. But
I looked it up. Jerry killed. That was not him at Maryland. That did. The thing.
That was.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, that was the other guy. Yes, Durkin.
Who coincidentally, his nephew was my roommate in college.
Oh,
DJ
Chris.
Durkin. Yeah, Chris
Durkin.
Chris
So.
Durkin. I don't think he killed somebody. I don't want to put that.
It was involuntary.
Yeah, I don't think that he murdered somebody. But just do want to put that. I do want to put that bow on it.
So typically, if you are a business and you're looking to solve a problem, you might be a government agency, and you need to bring in some outside help. You call up Deloitte and you say, "Hey, listen, I need a lead consultant." That's what we need to do for this offense. I don't know if Deloitte has any for us, but we do need to bring someone in to hopefully fix the offense. But that's the last question we had from the letters from the lunch pail. Any other ones from YouTube, or are we closing this thing out?
I think we're closing it out. I think closing thoughts look, I don't know if there are two teams in America that need a win more than our two teams. I don't know what the situation report is on your social media or fan relations. It is hellish on our end. And I guess this is, a really interesting game to have on primetime. If you can put a Post-it note on your screen over the records and just watch the game. And I think it's going to be a competitive game with a lot of fun storylines, with a really fun environment. So, I'll leave it at that. Any closing thoughts from you guys?
Please win. Please win a game. It's been so long since we felt a win.
Please win.
I'll double on that. I mean,
please.
Yeah.
No. Hey, our thing.
Oh man. I think
we'll get together.
What did you run and get? Please win mug. Wow.
Wait, that's awesome. We might need to boot like that.
Yeah. Well, that does it. Loyal Sons from Pittsburgh, Sons of Saturday from Virginia Tech. Kickoff is on ACC Network. Get your bets in if you want. And we got a football game coming up. And yeah.
We'll get together with you guys on Saturday. We'll get a nice picture. It'll be
none of them are coming to the game. There will be no picture.
Oh, you guys aren't coming?
Pat, all chances of us making the drive down to Blacksburg died when we walked out of Milan Puskar Stadium losing 17-6 in the backyard brawl. And any sliver was gone when I heard the Jurkovic threw another interception while I was walking in the parking lot to the hotel.
Well, it sounds like you guys are just ignoring any opportunity of leaving Lane Stadium with a win. So I guess Billy Ray and I are going to go get it instead.
I will say for anybody, there's been some cursing going on in this podcast. For anybody that is trying to avoid another one, I will say I will preemptuate this conversation with it. But David, give me as PG-13, please, of a description on. So you've been thrown up on twice in the West Virginia backyard brawl coming back. Is that true?
No. So here's what happened. 2020 last year. What was last year? Last year was 2022.
PG-13.
Fuck.
Now you're really fired.
Wait, you get one in PG-13 movies. I definitely misunderstood.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
Anyway.
So you used your one.
I got thrown up on. Had to buy a new polo in the stadium, like dried throw up down my shorts and my legs.
Oh my!
That was 2022, and Pitt won that game.
Uh-huh.
In 2023, 20 minutes before the game, my fiance and I ran to the bathroom, and while we were gone, the most blacked out college student in the history of college students, which is saying something,
right?
Fountained vomit into the air and down directly where we were standing and just covered the place, like painted a couple of our buddies, but I wasn't there, so it didn't get me. And while I was in line for the bathroom, another college kid comes sprinting up, trash can right next to me, explodes into the can, splatter everywhere, misses me by millimeters. Pitt loses.
So what, are you going to be throwing yourself in front of people throwing up the next time that you guys are in West Virginia? Like, are you going to?
I will be throwing up on David on Saturday.
Everybody is taking turns puking on me next year at Acrisure for the backyard brawl.
Oh, that does it for our friends from Pittsburgh. Guys, enjoy the football. Go Hokies. Go sports. Go friendship.
Enjoy the games.
Enjoy
Stay
the games.
dry.
And we will talk to you guys soon. Guys, that was